Finally, by unpopular demand, I get to work on the DYU D1 / Jetson bolt again, and we're gonna make it go fast. If you have been following along with the previous videos on upgrading my DYU, you know that just adding a controller did nothing for me. We added a normal 6-step style controller and it was extremely loud. It vibrated through the seat. So I went to a sine wave controller, which is really just an approximated sine wave. It technically is still a 6-step controller. However, it does more of a smooth, approximated sine wave would be the best way to put it. And that really quieted the vehicle down. However, I upped the amperage on it, and at 36 volts, it was really pulling no more. It was not accelerating faster. We were not getting any more top speed. So I knew that this was essentially nothing but a very slow motor on a low enough voltage that it could never hurt itself. That is really good for ready to run off-the-shelf style vehicles. You don't want it to overheat. You don't want it to burn out your MOSFETs. And if you have like a 3-mile long hill, you want it to survive no matter what. So that's what they did on this guy, is they made it to where it was really a survivor. And honestly, this rear hub is way overkill, especially compared to the other DYU bike that I reviewed. So this is the one that I'm going to modify because a bigger motor will take more wattage without overheating. And the other one, while it has a bigger battery pack in it, which is nice for range, I don't really want to smoke the motor on that one. Maybe I'll get to that project later and we'll figure out what works. But in the meantime, you can see that I picked up a new battery pack. This blue one here is our stock pack, and this little black one is the Mighty Mini from Luna Cycle. And these guys run about $300 for it, but they are high quality cells because we can even look. Both of these packs are 6 amp hour. I do believe that the Luna Cycle pack is an honest 6 amp hours, whereas the blue one, they call it 6 amp hours, and more than likely it gets probably 4.5 to 5.5 because that's the way most things are labeled. And a lot of these low quality cells, they don't output the rated capacity when it's under any load at all. And that's the case for any battery cell, is that the capacity does go down when you pull more and more amperage out of it because a lot of it gets turned into heat. But this isn't a lesson on battery efficiency. What you can see here is that the pack from Luna Cycle is smaller, but it is 56 volts, I do believe. What do they call it? 52 volts is what they call it. It peaks out at 58.8 volts, I do believe, is what the deal is on this. So that's what we got. Oh, and they may have underrated these a little bit. They use 3,500 milliamp hour cells, 14S 2P style. So more than likely, I would say this is a lithium ion, since it is a much smaller pack than this guy. It's not going to be cylindrical cells, just a guess. But at any rate, as you can see, to the point, it is a smaller pack that has more voltage to it, more energy density to this pack. So what we're going to be able to do is get more speed out of the bike, and that's what I wanted. And with more speed also comes the ability to up our amperage on the controller, and it will actually pull it. Now, I do forget what I programmed this to, and I don't have the equipment to see what it is, but I have taken this for a little test ride. As you can see, the wires are everywhere, and it has both more torque and more top speed and can pull the heavier guys around the shop, no problem at all. So let's see, I'll just give you a little preview here of the wheel speed that we have. It doesn't look impressive on the bench, to tell you the truth. It doesn't look like it's going any faster, but riding it is definitely noticeable that it is faster. So we've got these XT90s, I think, XT90S. It's got the anti-spark in there. So I am gonna have to upgrade those on the controller or just have this adapter. I could probably just keep the adapter. And it's quiet and it's fast. And again, it doesn't look like it's really that fast. It doesn't really sound like it's hauling ass, but now instead of going 15 miles an hour, I would estimate we are going about 20, which in my opinion is too fast for this little bike, but you kind of get used to it and it works out. And I am going to say that we are going to get anywhere between 6 and 12 miles of range on a single charge. Since I'm only 1.5 miles away from the shop or so, that's going to be perfect for my use. But what do we got to do next on this guy? I need to clean up the wires because as you can see, it is a bloody mess. And I just really don't feel safe with all of these wires hanging out. So what we're gonna do is start cutting and snipping, and I will show you the process. Now, I would like to say that I essentially took what was a $300 bike and I have thrown $400 of upgrades at it. You may not be into doing that, so I'll give you a pass on that. But if you're wanting to make this a badass bike for what it is, a small folder, I threw it in my trunk to get it over here, this is the way to do it. And this is the battery pack that I have found that fits and does the job. So Mighty Mini from Lunicycle. That is the one that I'd recommend. I haven't found any of them yet otherwise that would give us an upgrade. So I want to make these wires a little nicer. It's just a bloody mess right now. And so what I'm going to attempt is to cut off all of this old crap, the old throttle and everything. I can't just pull it through anymore the way that they did the harnesses or the plug ends on there. I can't just pull it through the frame anymore. But what I can do is snip the ends and then use that as a fish wire, to pull through the new throttle, because I can actually get, at least I should be able to get this off if I have the right tools. And sometimes that's just something thin to shove in there. So first order of business, well, we need to make sure that it's gonna go together right. So we got the positive on the top, we got the black on the bottom, the green in the middle. You're gonna have to help me at home remember what the order is. And now I need something very thin. I didn't really come prepared. I need something thin to poke in here. At the shop, I usually use a spoke. I don't have any spokes here. I don't think my knife will fit in there. What about an Allen wrench? We shove that down in there, and then we actually need a second device. We're compressing the pin, and then we shove the pin down and through. This is always a good time. There we are. Then they slip out. There. Easy as pie. Although pie isn't that easy, in my opinion. I mean, we really don't need any of these wires. I would like to keep the brake actuator switch, just in case, because we could possibly use that in the future. But first thing, sorry, stock throttle and cruise control button setup. Don't want you. Just cut that wire right off. We're avoiding warranties here, folks. Ooh, piggy. That's the one. One wire coming. Oh dear. You know, it's a lot easier to have a bike rack to work on these, but I understand that most of y'all probably don't have a bike rack laying around. They also routed the brake cable through the frame, which honestly is kind of weird. I mean, it looks clean and all, but brake cables really don't need sharp bends in them. And when it's time to replace the brake cable, it's not an easy job. It is not an easy job. But hopefully you won't ever have to deal with that. When you do, you could always just sell it to some unsuspecting person and let them deal with it. There we go. All right, first order of business, the old throttle is out. Now the next wire. I am going to cut off the wire on the other side, which has the horn. I am leaving enough room just in case we wanted to resolder these back together that we could. Now we find which one, and we're going to use this as our fish wire because it is thinner, and I already took the first one out, which gives us more room to fish with. So a couple wraps of electrical tape. And hopefully it won't pull apart inside the frame, because if it does, we'll pretty much be screwed. But I'll be real gentle. And maybe, just maybe, I can finish out a project that looks good and clean and finished on the wiring. Do you like finishing out your projects? Or are you the type of guy that just kind of gets them to a good working point and that's good enough, like me? Because that's mostly how I operate. I get them to a working point and I know that I'm going to be switching out components. This is a perfect example. If I had cleaned up the wiring on the first attempt, I would have had a bike that was no better than the last. And then I'd have to undo the wiring and redo it all over again. And that's no fun. That's no fun to just beat your head against a brick wall. Now we figure out which one this one is. There's only a few choices it can be. That's the one. Oh yeah, they just got everything routed through here. Come on. They do have these nice little rubber grommets in most of the holes in the frame, except for this one down here. But look at there. Hey, it's working. And I think we're actually going to have enough room to put the controller inside too. There we go. How about that? All right, I'll go ahead and take the tape off. We are finished through the frame. Success. Now, if you do a replacement on the controller and the battery, you will need an aftermarket throttle. And that's basically the whole kit. You would need the battery, the motor controller, a new throttle, and more than likely a new hand grip as well for the one that gets replaced. And since the grip on the left side also has the integrated brake lever, I'm going to keep that one for now. Probably not what I would do long term, but this will work for now. We're not trying to spend too much time and money on this. It's just a toy for me. For y'all, it may be a utility tool. Is this something that you would buy to ride around to get you that last mile? Maybe save some money on your parking? Because I used mini bikes when I was still in college to save money on parking. I could park off campus and then ride the last, mile or so into campus. That worked out really well, because otherwise it's like $40 a month to pay for parking on campus. Or you can get meters, which it's $1 an hour. If I had 4 hours of class, that's $4 a day. That's $120 a month just using meters. But otherwise in a parking lot, it's like $40 a month. 1 year of doing that, there's our next wire, and you have paid for this bike. 2 years of doing that, and you will have paid for this bike and the upgrades, and have yourself something really cool at the same time. All right, so we've got the wires on the controller going into the motor. I got this one made as a generic controller, so we've got a lot of extra going on. We've got the throttle input, which we need. We have the programming port, which we need, but we don't need this extra wire. We don't need the brake function, really. I'll keep the brake function just in case. And then this extra, I think this was a pedal assist input on that. But if I do get these controllers made, I'm definitely going to get some made at this point. I won't have all this extra stuff on there. I will have them programmed for this bike, and it will be a nice, easy, more or less plug-and-play experience for you. Because that is always the nice way to go. I think that is going to be good enough. I will be able to cram the rest of these wires in here, and we can always take them off, but it's really hard to put them back. Now let's see if our controller will fit inside. Because what would be really cool is putting these side covers back on and having no one the wiser that this guy's hopped up. Oh, look at that. Just look at that. It fits right in there. It looks like it is going to bolt down. Oh, it's really close. Yeah, I think it's going to bolt down. And if it doesn't, we can always do a little bit of modifications. Oh, there's a little piece of plastic right here that's keeping it from coming down all the way. But I think that's going to bolt on. Nice. I think those side covers are just gonna hide everything. All right, so the next question is, can we hide the rest of the wires in here? I also need to put our throttle cable back together. All right, so we had this was on this side, positive was on the little, y'all remember? Let me know in the comments, which way did it go? It was red, and then which one? Green, I think, in the middle. I'll just have to go back and watch the video if this doesn't work. Then black on the opposite side. And before I button everything up, we shall plug this in real quick. Plug in the battery. No smoke, no fire, that's a good sign. And then, oh, we gotta get, there we go. There we go. Yes, she's working. And unplug, make sure you unplug. The only thing that I don't have settled is how I'm going to access the charging port for this new battery. And for right now, I don't think that's really a big deal. I should make note that we're only holding this battery down by one strap fully, then the other strap halfway. And I feel like I need to use the lower one. Right now I've got it bolted into the upper, but the way that gravity works, it's pulling against that. So I am going to change that. Otherwise you could use a different battery strap. You could use a little adapter piece. Once everything's bolted together, it really doesn't matter in my opinion, but you don't want it just banging around. So I'm going to change that over before we get too far. So as you can see, it's bolted into the top position. I'm going to put that bolt back in just so I don't lose it. And we could probably get a longer bolt for this. Let's see, unless one arm is longer, it is not. It looks like it may not quite reach, just barely not reach, but we'll see. Because this battery is slightly thicker than stock, just ever so slightly. All right, it's not going to quite reach with that stock screw, so well, I had some random screws laying around. Let's see if this works. Yes, looks like it's a stainless screw too. So I will just tighten this down enough, just enough. There we go. Now, I'm not quite happy with that. To tell you the truth, we could probably use a different strap just to make it ideal. But yeah, I mean, that'll work. That'll work. I could even put this other one back in. Let's do that. I would note that the stock battery, these straps don't really, it's not really perfectly formed to the battery, so they're at angles, and it's just not what I would consider like a fully fit and finished e-bike. But it works, it works. There we go. Hey, I was able to put it back in. There we go. Hey, that's bolted. I'm happy with that. I would ideally see a little bit different strap, but c'est la vie for now. This will get us going. All right, so last order of business, we will tidy these wires a little bit. I honestly can't believe there's enough room to put that controller in there too. Usually there's not, but these controllers that I had made are fairly small, so to their advantage, they fit. All right, lots of wires, lots of wires. We can just wrap these around. We could zip tie them. We can do all kinds of things. We have options. Yeah, just like that. I will wrap it around the battery in one direction. All right. And I guess the other thing that we'll have to worry about is plugging it and unplugging it as well, because this is going to be inside the housing. I don't want to have to unscrew the housing every single time, so more than likely what I will do is cut a little port and have a loop on the outside. It doesn't actually have to be these two plugs. It can be an extension coming off of this that only unplugs and plugs in, say, the power wire. And that would give us a nice little on-off that is reliable. It doesn't have electronics constantly bleeding the battery down, and does what we need to do, which is to turn the bike off and make it safe to store. Because electric bikes, I don't know if you've ever goosed the throttle on an electric bike not knowing that it was turned on, but it has happened to my bikes so many times where somebody just walks up and gives it a blip. You don't want this thing to just be on all the time. It's a safety hazard for sure. But yeah, all right. This is cleaning up a lot better than I thought it would. I would say that's success. So I am going to go ahead and get some of these controllers made as a plug-and-play installation. We will be selling them through the Grow and Throw website, growandthrow.com. It's going to shove you over to another website that is built on, oh, what's the company? Shopify. Thank you. It is built on a Shopify website, but it's going to be an official link from our Grow and Throw website. I don't know if they will be available when this is released because we do have to get them made, and I wanted to make sure that, of course, this works before we get them made. But at any rate, my question is whether or not you would like one of these aftermarket controllers for your Jetson Bolt or DYU. I'm only going to get a couple made, maybe a half a dozen at first, and if those do well, then we will get some more made. Sweet. I am very happy with how this turned out. We will just clamp this back down. There we go. And once I get a little bit more work done, just a little bit, this is going to be a nice stock looking bike that is fast, more powerful, more torque on hills. Technically it can have a little bit more range too because it's a higher voltage, same amp hour pack, but if we went slow, the same speed of stock, 15 miles an hour, then we would actually get more range from the more watt hours in the pack. But in the meantime, I'm going to do a little bit of work to clean this up, give myself a charging port, and we will just go from there. If you do have any more questions about this that I didn't cover, please leave them down below. I'll do my best to get to them. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Have a good day.